Welcome back to the Shoutout podcast. Quickly wanted to announce that our YouTube channel has now crossed a total of 1 million views, which is a small milestone, but it means a lot to us. And so we want to just thank everyone who supports the channel by tuning in and subscribing, etc. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this episode 28, which is brought to you by Infinity Inc. Infinity Inc. is an independent record label based in Dimapur that manages some of the biggest artists in Nagaland and also is part of the biggest and best curated events that happen in Nagaland. So for episode 28, we have a wonderful guest with us. He is an artist who's been in the music field for over a decade and a half, for 16 years, making music with a difference. He has initiated many awesome projects and missions that we're going to be talking about in detail. Recipient of the Governor's Award for Excellence in the Field of Music. Welcome to the podcast, TALI ANGH.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
So yeah, finally we made it. You've been super busy recently. Why don't you just share a little bit about what happened last night or last evening, the Love Sound Movement event that you had at Supermarket?
Yeah, so this happened. I mean, this has been happening since the lockdown,
Right.
but there was a gap, and just since the past few weeks, I've been having this stirring in my heart to just basically just pick it up again. And
When was the last time you said that this happened, Love Sound?
when it comes to Nagaland, Dimapur, and just other districts in Nagaland, it's like, I don't know, it's more than a year now.
Okay,
Ever since
okay.
we discontinued basically going out and doing worship.
Right.
Of course, we've been doing in other cities, Delhi, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. But yeah, all of a sudden, I just felt God telling me to just go out and just remind people that He hasn't forgotten Dimapur. Things on the outside don't look very great, and we have every reason to give up also.
Right. A lot
But
of reasons. Yes.
yeah, just remind the people that He hasn't given up on Dimapur and the people living here. He still has plans to prosper. So what we do is we just go out, invite the believers, churches, and then through worship and prayer.
Like it was open air. Like
Yeah, it was open
outside.
air. Yeah.
And how was the
supermarket.
response?
So we were not very aggressive in terms of just publicity and promotion.
Yeah.
Especially this time. We actually were doing it we did it for 1 week.
Okay.
Started
The
from
promotions and
Monday.
stuff.
No,
Or?
going to the street.
Okay.
Yeah, just 4 or 5 of us would go every day, go out every day. And then on the 7th day, which was yesterday, was when we gave open invitation to people.
Oh.
So the first 6 days was more like a low-key affair, like
Okay.
just within few of us. We would go and worship and pray for Dimapur.
Oh, so it's like a 1 week.
Yeah, it was a 1 week thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So yesterday was when we had
the finale
people-
kind of.
Yeah. Which is not necessarily the end, but it's more like momentum that is building, and,
Okay.
and time and again, the Lord would just tell us to do it. And so we're open for whenever God tells us to do.
That's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
we're definitely getting in,
Yeah.
deeper into that.
Yeah.
And what it's all about. I'm sure the audience might not be aware or about what exactly Love Sound Movement is. The people who follow you, I'm sure, do. But for others, we'll definitely be going into detail about that. Like I said in the intro, you have initiated many interesting missions, I'd call it, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll definitely get into that.
Sure.
Let's get the shoutouts done. You know what this is.
Yeah.
I'll give a shout out. You can follow it up with yours.
Sure.
My shout out for this episode goes out to a big group of people who were participating and also responsible for the recently concluded third Northeast Games, which was hosted by our state Nagaland. So a big shout out to all the participants from Nagaland, the medal winners who brought medals home, and also to the ones who didn't win. Congratulations, because representing our state is an achievement in itself and an honor. So shout out to you all. A big shout out also to the organizers, Nagaland Olympic Association, and all the many sports associations that were together put up a very stellar show, and did the job of a host very with very high standards. And being a sports lover myself, and also being someone who's involved in the sports industry, it was a joy to witness and be a part of. Yeah.
Yeah, my shout out goes out to a lot of people actually, but I'll name a few. Of course, my wife and my children, my constant companion, and just the joy that I get to experience, having them around every day almost. And of course, my incredible parents and my siblings. I won't say much, but yeah, you know it. And so, and also to all the people out there, who are still not compromising and hopeful and dreaming and believing that you will see a better Nagaland. And of course, shout out to the Shoutout team led by Asalie. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. First time we're getting a shout out, so that's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think family is a big thing for you,
Yeah.
like a big part of your life, right? And I'm sure it is for many people also. But that's another thing that we'll be getting into a little in depth about later. But why don't we start with like your backstory, your TALI ANGH as growing up. Like I told you, I give this time for the guests to sort of just take us through their childhood, maybe how it was growing up, and let the audience also get a little more insight knowledge about how it was growing up for a person like you in Nagaland.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Longleng,
Right.
which is one of the districts
Yeah,
in Nagaland. And in general, my childhood was good because I was raised by loving parents. They really took good care of me, and of course all other siblings. And so I've always felt or experienced the security and comfort from my parents, and for which I'm still very grateful to them and to God. And as a child, I was a shy boy. I mean, I was shy, but also stubborn, I think, because a lot of people have mentioned that, which I didn't realize back then. But I do remember an incident a couple of incidents, instances where we used to have a home tuition teacher, and he was from Bihar.
Okay.
And whenever we would sit like this, he would keep a stick, and then when the tuition starts, I would just quietly take the stick and keep it under the table. And whenever he is prompted to do something with the stick, and he will see that there's no stick, he'll just be very he can't do beyond that, because he could see that I'm a little different. So I kind of remember a little bit of those moments also. And apart from that, life was very simple actually. It was very simple. And I think as much as I would say I had the opportunity to be influenced by my friends even back then, but I was someone who was guarded. And I would say it was because of my parents, I think the words they spoke over our lives, their prayers, and just the needed and timely warnings that they would give.
Right.
Those have really kept me guarded. And so I wasn't spoiled. So, and I'm still grateful for that. And
how about when you were sort of still young, school going, what were some of your interests or passions, or were you a studious kid, or someone who was like?
I was serious about my studies,
Okay.
but I wasn't a studious guy. I was not very sincere.
Okay.
So
What were some of the things that, you know, maybe when you're, you know, like when you're young, so many things go through your head, like you want to
Yeah.
be this, you know, like your ambitions change every year or something like that. What
Right,
were some
right.
of the things that were a little serious for you at that time, you know, while growing up? Like what did you want to be, you know, grow up to be?
Well, I mean, apart from parents and just, you know, elders telling me to become this and that,
Right, right.
like becoming an IS officer or
Mm.
becoming a doctor. Apart from that, you know, like just something that I just felt naturally, you know,
Mm.
probably just coming out from within was from music.
Right.
Yeah, the passion for music. And the reason why I say this is because I can vividly remember, even today, some of the moments that I would have on the front porch of a house with a
Okay.
guitar.
Like how young are we talking? Like,
I'm talking about maybe when I was in class 2, 3.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's very young.
Yeah. So I didn't know how to play the guitar.
Okay.
And I
But
was
you liked it, you enjoyed
yeah,
it. Mm.
yeah. So, but I would hold the guitar and just strum, just random, you know, like I don't know what I'm playing. I didn't know what I was playing, but I would just strum the guitar and just sing it out, you know, and I would just sing anything. But if I try to remember those moments, I really enjoyed. Even right now, I can feel those moments. Like I really enjoyed doing those.
Yeah,
doing what I used to do back then, you know, with the guitar and just singing out. Yeah, so I would call it as passion. You know,
definitely.
Yeah.
That's like a core memory
Yeah.
getting unlocked, you know.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
think it's like when we're younger, like when
Yeah.
we were kids and growing up, some memories, whether it's like something that we ate or some holiday that we went on or something like that,
Exactly.
like it's so much
You said
stronger
it
and
right,
more
yeah.
vivid and like,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, like but on that we'll be getting into music and all that later. But when did you officially sort of like take any music class, or did you have any, like, you know?
I've never gone for
Yep.
any music class. No,
Okay,
no,
okay,
no.
okay. So it was always
Yeah.
just like a hobby kind of thing, and not like a
Yeah.
taking guitar classes
No.
or this or that vocals. Okay,
Not at
okay.
all. Yeah.
Okay, then moving forward, I mean, like, I know about it, but like, you know, why don't you share about the people, like the line that you start going once you started, you know, when you were done with school, you moved
Yeah.
in, like, it is a very unique, or I mean, I would say like uncommon, you know, line that you were taking when
Yeah.
you were later in college and also.
Yeah,
Why don't you
yeah.
share a little bit about that?
So yeah, when I was in my high school, I was very serious about going for medical studies because by then I was very convinced that I am supposed to pursue this, and so I did try. After my plus 2, which I did from Don Bosco, Kohima.
Okay.
After which I tried for 2 years, you know, trying to clear
Entrance exams.
joint entrance examination,
Yeah.
which I never made it.
Okay.
And after that, you know, I did 1 year BSc in Science College, Kohima.
Okay.
And so I had a great time actually. 1 year felt like 5 to like 10 years in a good way because it was a very wholesome experience for me. One of the reasons was because I got introduced to EU, Evangelical Union. Yeah. So I met a lot of good friends, and I think there was also one of the I would say pivotal moments for me when I really began to discover my singing ability and passion.
Okay.
You know,
This is in Science College?
guy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, but then I knew that, you know, I had to pursue in the same line when it comes to educational
Right.
pursuit, you know. So, but then I was not satisfied with the kind of subject combination that we would have back then. And all of a sudden, I came to know about biotechnology, which was a new thing.
Right.
And so I just signed up for it, went down to Bangalore, and then things changed again from there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know about, like, you know, like how it gradually turned into what it became and what it is now. But like, share a little bit about that experience also, because like I find that very interesting when you talked about it. Like I told you, I watched a small clip of yours on YouTube, and you talked about it a little bit about the power of passion and what passion was, and that how it can change your life's direction, even though you are like, technically and doing something, but when that passion is so strong, you like, it'll pull you towards that thing, and you eventually went with it. So like, share with us how that thing happened when you were doing your biochem, and even post that, like, when you were eventually trying to crack the competitive exams and such.
Yeah. Now, today, if I look back, the reason why I had to go through the process of, now I identify myself not as a biotechnologist, but as a singer, as an artist.
Right.
But I did study biotechnology back then, and why I had to go through the process was, today I can boldly say that it was God's way of taking me through a journey of maturing me. It was just a matter of time for me to really let the passion out, but I needed some stability, when it comes to my heart, the state of my mind, emotionally, and just the exposure that I needed, So, and I'm so grateful to God for introducing me to NCF, Naga Christian Fellowship Bangalore, and of course J&I Studios Union Bangalore. I had the privilege to serve in both, if I may say, both the organizations, church and the students' body. I did serve in various capacities like sports secretary, AGS, GAS, and also in the church. I was part of the worship team, and so I learned to serve in a community and to grow with the community. That was something that I really needed, and I was surrounded by few great friends, wonderful friends, and they became like a guard for me. There was no way I could be influenced by any other things, because the influence over my life was so strong. So friendship is really very, very, very important. I think the company that you hang around,
definitely,
I think that really shapes your thinking, your thought process, just your growth in general. So so again, coming back to the passion thing, for me, before, like I said earlier, before I had to let out that passion, I think I just needed to have that strong grounding, when it comes to my faith. Like I really needed to be strong in my faith. Of course, it's a process. I'm
Definitely,
not saying but being part of that, being part of a believing community, church community, it really helped me, and also understand and realize that faith is what determines the course of your life, the purpose of your life. And so I realized that, well, everything, all the desires that I have, my passion, my dreams, everything has to be anchored around that faith. And that gave me a sense of security, that I may not know many things, but as long as I remain true and faithful to that conviction, to walk and mature in my faith with God, that will definitely be help me, to not just be successful, but how do I say? I'll be able to usher in, positive impact in the society. So for me, it was more than a career. I had that sense of responsibility already growing in me, that whatever I'm doing has to really impact the world around. So
at that time, how strong would you say your faith was, or like how like convinced were you about like this is something that you want to do? That time when you in college in Bangalore, you were part of the NCF there. How was it? Was it like, were you just getting into it, or by that time were you already like very committed? And
I think for me, I was definitely committed to NCF, and at least the responsibilities and the privilege that I was getting, by being part of the community.
Right.
And no doubt about the seriousness that I needed to have in my walk with God. It was definitely there. But But again, when it comes to just to cut it short,
Yeah.
coming back to my passion,
Mm.
I think my songwriting, discovering the songwriting gift in me, it really changed the course of my life when it comes to profession or career or ministry, however you want to name it.
Right.
Yeah. I was singing and people would appreciate, they would love the songs that I sing and things like that. But yeah, I wouldn't go into the detail of what exactly happened. But one fine day, I challenged myself with this thought, why can't we write our own songs? We've been singing a lot of cover songs, and we're happy and we're satisfied with that. But is this the ceiling? And is it not possible for us to just go beyond that?
Right.
So with that thought, I went home, and for the first time ever in my life, I attempted to write my first ever song. Took me hours, and my first breakthrough happened the next morning, early in the morning, around 2-3 a.m. And then after a few weeks, I presented the song in the church, and a couple of occasions, people received it so well. I mean, I could tell because they came, especially elders, they came forward and they said, like, it's really good. You should continue writing. It's original. It's authentic. You should keep doing it. And so, although we don't just live by the approvals of people, but genuine encouragements, are very, very important. So
Definitely.
they really helped me to just keep pursuing, and months passed
And
by. Yeah.
when was this? Because I know that you were preparing for your exams, right? Like competitive exams.
Yeah.
How much of a pressure was that? Like, family, society, whatever, from whichever angle it was, that you were saying, like, how they wanted you to become an IAS officer or a doctor or whatever. How much would you say was like you doing that because of that? You know what I'm saying? Like, how much pressure was that?
Yeah. So, my parents were not very, how do I say, insistent about, like,
You have to be
But I could just sense that there's certain amount of pressure and expectations, obviously. And I've been told ever since my childhood that, we want you to become an IAS officer. And of course, they also suggested me to become a medical doctor. Just career options, basically, which I never made it.
Right.
And then when I was just about to finish my post-graduation, that was when my parents and just some of my loved ones also suggested it is still not late. You can pursue it, you can try for competitive exams. So that's when I also started considering, and I would just have a little bit of time to prepare for that also. And
were you back in Nagaland by that time, or
no? I came back only after I finished my post graduation.
Okay.
So I came back in the year 2008, early 2008.
Okay.
Yeah. So I stayed for an extra year after I finished my studies for two reasons. One was to just continue serving at NCF in the worship team, because I really felt that I should be there. So it was my own decision. And secondly, I was also going for civil services coaching in one of the coaching centers, I think Himalayas. So I used to go there. But I think by then I was very clear.
You already
I had made up my mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, like, when was that moment in your life when you it like clicked, like, that this is it, like this is the path I'm taking.
Yeah.
So when was there like some certain thing that happened? When was it like that kind of moment, or was it like a gradual thing?
It was a gradual thing.
Okay.
And like I said, one of the reasons was the songwriting thing.
So that happened when you were
when I was in Bangalore,
like preparing for your exams.
Okay. I think, if I'm not wrong, 2005, 2006 was when I started to discover this songwriting gift in me, and it grew stronger, and so I think that really helped me to make a firm decision to really pursue where I'm today. Yeah.
Okay, so now you're sort of convinced about the path that you want to take, and how was the process of like the plan of like, how are you going to go about it, and what was going through your head? I mean, like, even though you had decided clearly that this is the path you want to take,
Yeah.
what was like sort of the steps that you took towards trying to get there? What was your plan?
Yeah. So initially, I think it's with all of us. Back then, obviously, you would agree with me. We didn't have too many opportunities.
For sure.
Although I'm not someone who runs after opportunities, but just the scenario
Yeah.
of music
The reality of it
industry
was,
different.
yeah.
And so, apart from just writing songs at home and
Mm.
getting to sing in the church and some special occasions, we were jobless. So that was after I came back from Bangalore,
Right.
2008 onwards.
Mm.
So basically, you have enough time for many other things.
Mm.
So the process was very unique for me, and if I try to dig into all the things that I tried doing, it'll take a long time. But I'll just mention.
Yeah,
you
please,
know,
yeah.
And, so I had time to start a cafe with a friend in Dimapur,
Okay.
which we did for a few years.
Oh, what was it called?
It was called Mirror Cafe.
Okay.
Mirror Cafe. And, currently, it's behind Space M.
Okay,
Mobile shop.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
For a few years. So the cafe culture wasn't really there
Right.
back then, but we thought it'll be good to just introduce this cafe culture and then have people, and do a lot of things, music and events and things like that in that small cafe hall. We did try for a few years, so anyway, so this was happening, and I also had this kind of frustration and also motivation, to do something about the environmental condition that was
of Dimapur.
of Dimapur. Basically, waste management, something to do with waste management, just keeping the city clean. And one of my subjects was also environmental education.
Okay.
One of the subjects that I studied when I did my biotechnology. So it was all like I thought like I can contribute, so I did a little bit of survey and just visiting schools and interacting with students, and went and met the deputy commissioner, went to DMC office, met some of the officials, mobilized people, formed a group of volunteers. We did a couple of works here also in Nagaland.
Okay.
Like few lanes.
On the what was this called?
I named it as Bioremedy.
Okay.
It was just a small group.
Okay.
And so I at least I tried to do what I thought I should do. I felt was necessary.
It's still necessary. It's still.
I know.
Yeah, I was having this conversation
Yeah.
just recently, but yeah. Anyway.
I would say it was picking up well. But as I've said earlier, I had so much time for many things, and simultaneously, I was also helping out our family in our family school in Longleng.
Okay.
Wife and I, we were trying to manage the school also, so many things, and along with that, music, but music has always been there. And I think the only thing that I was consistent for the past many years has been music. And so in spite of trying many other things, music really stood out for me. And so there came a time for all of these that I was trying to stop, basically, and some of it was very difficult to let go. But the pull on the other side
was
music, for music was too strong. I thought this is me, this is how I can, how do I say, express myself better, through music as an artist, as a musician. And so I just kept aside all of these things and just continued pursuing. And when I took that step, I suddenly realized that, doors started to open, and people began to notice me more. At least, basically when I say notice me more, I had more people
recognition.
you
I mean,
know,
like,
basically listening to my songs,
Right,
and I could interact better even with the audience, you know, through the platform that I was getting. Yeah. So
And was this just sort of like, to put it in a timeline kind of thing? You had mentioned that you were like, when it comes to the genre of music, you were in mainstream music also, right? For like making, like, when was this like happening? Was this later
no, so
or
yeah, so when I came back from Bangalore and in my initial years,
or the initial years?
yeah,
Okay,
the
okay,
initial years, I was active with the church also. I would lead worship in conferences, revival meetings, church. But at the same time, you know, I was also, as an artist, you know, I was also on a journey. So I would say early on, I recognized how God was positioning me, and I'm not really speaking for everybody who are artists or musicians, but I'm speaking for myself. You know, just recognizing how God positions you. So it may seem a little confusing, you know, for somebody who is in the church, active in the church, but also in the mainstream.
right?
Yeah, but early on I could just sense that, you know, God was positioning me in that manner, you know. So I just accepted the challenge, I would say, and so I was active in the mainstream. I was part of the Nagaland,
Right.
you know, few seasons,
The
a few
judging,
years,
yeah.
and also and also just in all the possible platforms that you can think of when it comes to the mainstream events.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Like, right, because now obviously you're not doing that anymore. You're totally into
Yeah.
what we call worship music or gospel, or what is it, contemporary Christian music.
Yeah.
So, but if someone was doing that right now, is that, do you find that, like, do you have an issue with that, or do you think it's totally okay, like,
So-
for someone to be in, you know, your lane,
Yeah.
but also to be making like mainstream music, or like, you know, being commercial, so to speak, like?
Yeah. So see, it's very personal. It's very personal, and for me, in my case, I was very clear about where I was stepping out.
Right.
What is more important is why you do what you do, and so that was very clear for me. And so it was not really for money or for fame, although this money is important,
Money
success is
definitely,
important,
yeah.
but I was not driven by those things. But I went with a mission to really impact lives. And so the songs that I've been singing all these years, whether in the church or outside, you know, these songs have been, I would say, life-giving songs.
Right.
And those songs, especially my songs, most of the songs birthed out of my relationship with God.
Got it.
So basically, you know, I didn't compromise. At least when it comes to sharing my art, I've remained true to my faith. So this is very personal, and I think I get from where you're coming also. You know, like whether you would approve certain people, you know, functioning in a similar fashion.
Right.
It's personal. You know, why is he singing this song, or you know, why is he acting in a certain way? You know, I think I'm nobody to really judge, but there's time to discern also. Some things I discern, and I don't accept, I don't approve, and I don't have to be always vocal about it. But if I have an opportunity, I don't mind meeting that person and just sitting and having a
letting
healthy
them
talk.
know what you feel.
But
I get what you saying, because I was not too sure about how it was working. But basically, in your case, it was, although it is a commercial or mainstream platform, the songs were from that, you know,
That's
the
right.
roots were there, right? Like,
That's right.
In gospel. So like, I get that.
So see, my first album had 10 songs. None of the songs have the mention of Jesus or all these jargons that
typically you'd find in a gospel song.
Yeah, gospel song.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even see or hear in the song. I wouldn't, as much as it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was intentional also, but it was just flowing from within me as an artist, as a songwriter. And I would question myself, well, I consider myself as a Christian artist, but there's hardly mention of Jesus in the song. But there was peace, that wait, this is the way to go, because the world needs to hear. The songs can't be just confined within the church and the believers. The world needs to hear. And there are many ways to really reach out, What is more important is the spirit behind, the impact that the song is making, rather than just trying to play it safe.
Right.
So, yeah.
You've been, involved with this since your college days, and maybe even before that, being with the worship team and stuff like that. But when did that take like a serious turn, when you started, doing all these initiatives and these missions and projects, and like, what was the turning point, that made you take that next step, instead of just doing only just music, but starting initiating these new projects or missions, such as the ones we'll get into, but yeah.
I think I'll start with music again, because wife and I, we have had the privilege to journey with musicians, with creatives, who beyond the four walls of the church, basically. We journeyed with them for a good number of years, and along the way, we also felt the need to just create a space for them where they can feel belong, just to love on them, and just journey together, basically, and help them find meaning, hope, purpose in life, rather than just doing music for living, And so Prism happened,
So that was the first out of all of them, the three.
No, before Prism was Love, Life, Liberty.
Okay. So why don't we start with that? Just
okay. Sure.
How did that start? What? Yeah.
Yeah. So as an artist, as a musician, I really wanted to do more than just recording songs and performing.
Right.
I really wanted to explore more, and I suddenly realized that, well, if you're talking about young people, schools and colleges, they're just there, hundreds and thousands just waiting for you.
Yeah.
And so I just gathered some courage to do it. I invited a few of my musician friends, asked them, would you be willing to sign up for this? And they just willingly came on board. And then we traveled to different districts in Nagaland, Dimapur, Kohima, and a few other districts.
Schools and colleges.
Yeah. And basically, most of the time we would just sing, and just in between share a little bit. But we didn't. That was a very unique leading. So we didn't project it like a typical church service or revival meetings. But it was more like a concert. But just the message and just the melody and just the interaction that we could have with the students. Those were very meaningful and impactful. So
when did this first start? The first Love, Life, Liberty.
Okay. Was it 2009? I think.
Okay.
2009, if I'm not wrong. 9 or 10.
Okay.
Okay.
9, 10. So
yeah.
How often do you do this?
So it was for a season.
Okay.
Yeah. It was intense. So after that particular season, I just moved on.
Okay. So you haven't done this again?
And so we have started to pick up since last year with a larger team, going to colleges. So we're still planning to go to more colleges. Last year we did one at Unity College.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was the experience?
It was great. It was a half-day affair.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
And then do you have interaction, or is it you share the message, you perform?
Yeah. So basically, 3 sections. The first part is more like a concert, where we have a few artists come and just share their songs, And the second set is more like how we're doing now, podcasts. It's just more like an interaction, issue-based and just relevant issues, with depression, anxiety, or things like that. Just have few young people along with maybe some people who are expert in a certain field, we would have them and then just interact with the students and also within panel, you know, and also the last set is more like what worship setting, and just share the word of God and just open
Okay.
the space for people to just experience God's love in a more deeper way. Yeah.
So the last one that you've done is last year.
Yeah,
Community
last year.
college.
Yeah,
And you plan to make this into like a yearly thing, or is there no?
You're asking a question which I'm really, which I've been thinking about it for a long time. We do want to make it like an annual event. Yeah, more like a conference.
Yeah.
But before that happens, we also want to just go to a few more colleges, and we'll see whenever we get the green signal from God, we'll take the step.
Nice. And so following that up was what you were going to just talk about, which is Prism.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, why don't you give us like an explanation of like what it is actually, and also like what pushed you to do this? Like what pushed you to what was the reason behind starting something as unique as Prism?
So yeah, wife and I, we've been journeying with musicians, with creatives for a while, and we have always felt the need to have this space, you know, for these creatives to basically a place to belong, you know, just so that we have the opportunity to work closely with them and just love on them, help them find meaning, purpose in life, apart from doing music. Okay, and so we were also trying to figure out how do we really do this, you know, and since we didn't have a clear-cut plan or idea how to do it, we just had to wait and just continue to journey with them. And all of a sudden, you know, there's this how do I say, the idea of Prism came, and we knew that this is something really from the Lord, you know, and we got very excited, and so initially we didn't have everything sorted out in terms of how Prism is going to look like, you know, but now we are so convinced that this is really going to be about, you know, community of creatives. We can have many things happening within Prism, but the main focus is to grow as a community of creatives. Yeah, and so our commitment is to foster friendship and unity. I think, and which can play as a very powerful force towards, you know, building the society, a fragmented society that we live in. I think creatives can play a vital role.
Definitely,
yeah,
I
and
believe that too.
so we are committed to just nurturing, you know, friendship and unity, and also, again, I would say, encouraging to live a wholesome life.
Right.
You can be so successful outside, but you can be so depressed inside. I think most people are going through that. And so what we emphasize within the community is also to pursue wholesome life, which comes from the one and only true source, that is your relationship with Jesus Christ, you know, who is, the Bible says, who's the way, the truth, and the life, you know, the perfect Zoe life. And so I think our mental health becomes very crucial also for long-term sustenance. At the end of the day, our success and our fame, they don't sustain us long enough. So I think seeing the need, you know, these are the three things we really emphasize, and which is why there are few highlights that we want to keep reminding the community is like identity, purpose, worship, no doubt creativity, friendship, community, and transformation.
Okay.
So if these things are, you know, if you can just embrace these things and be committed, you know, in to growing in these areas, I think you are different from the rest. You are not only successful, but you are living a healthy life. I think that is something we are really after. Yeah.
So how does this work, Prism? I mean, like, because like you're building like this community of creatives that you mentioned, and all these having these sort of key points that you want to focus on and all that. So what is the actual, like, how does it work? Like, Prism, like, for those that aren't aware of, like, what you do,
Yeah,
or do you have like programs, or is it just like a
that's
community?
right. Yeah, that's a good question. So we do school for 2 weeks. It's more like a retreat
Okay.
where creatives can just come and be refreshed. So we do have sessions on certain subjects, like I said, the ones that I've mentioned earlier:
Right.
identity, purpose,
Yes.
worship,
The
and
key
just
points that-
yeah,
yeah.
those. And apart from that, we also have few days where we go to another place, basically to do life together.
Yeah.
Not just have sessions, but get to know each other better, and build friendship and
Yeah.
things like that. And also, so we aren't. See, most of if I may say, maybe half of them, at least the ones that are already there, maybe 50 to 60%, or no, I think 40%, around 40% of them are like accomplished, more like accomplished artists.
Already established. And
established ones. And few others are like somewhere in between, and some are just
starting.
Yeah, so there's no demand from anybody to be serving under Prism like a full-time
Right, of course.
thing,
Yeah.
but it's more like like if ever we're doing any event like the one we did recently, one light concert.
Right.
It is more about the community coming together once in a while and serving the community at large, like people with their gifts and talents, basically to usher heaven through our gifts and talents, just to let people have a taste of heaven,
Right.
through music. This is what we've been doing since last year, and so we do it once in a while. It's very difficult
Yeah.
for 20, 30 people to come together.
Yeah.
So, and each one, most of them are like so busy.
Like you mentioned, already established, so they have their own things going on. Yeah.
So Prism is also is not a career option for anybody.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not an exclusive community also, I would say, but it is a unique one. We exist to stand alongside the visions of the churches the local churches here, especially to serve this creative community. Yeah, the vision of Prism also is about that. Yeah.
The third one that like, and we were just talking about it a little earlier.
Yeah.
You just had the very recent one, which was yesterday.
Yeah.
When this episode airs, it'll be 2 weeks ago. But Love Sound Movement. What is that all about? I mean, like, how did it start again? What was your inspiration behind it? And also explain to the people what it is you're trying to accomplish with this movement.
Yeah. So, see, initially when God gives a vision or something to start, you're not expected to know many things or everything.
Right.
So it requires a step of faith. So this was exactly what happened during the lockdown. I don't have to explain what happened during the lockdown, but during the first phase of lockdown, there was a stirring in my heart, restlessness in my heart to just go to the streets and just start to worship and sing and pray and things like that. I had to take some time, because it would be going against the protocol or whatever. What do you call it? I keep forgetting the term.
The SOPs and
the
all
SOPs
this,
and things like that. Yeah. So, but thankfully, God gave me the courage. Wife and I, we prayed about it and we took the step. We went to the street. The first place we went was at supermarket. We started to worship there, and after a few days, the Lord spoke very clearly through my wife to start this Love Sound movement. And we prayed about it, and we didn't understand fully what this was going to be all about, but we did feel and when God spoke through my wife that it is more than just street worship we're doing. So we had to really pay attention and ask God what this is going to be about. And then God told us two things very clearly. One was about to give a call to the body of Christ, basically to encourage the churches, the believers, that hey, like, we are actually one. We are, as much as there are differences, we are actually one in Christ. And so just to encourage and just to stir that, stir up, we were led to just do, how do I say, give a call basically, or encourage through worship and through prayer, especially to the believers. The second thing was about just releasing the sound of love, because there was too much fear, especially during the lockdown.
Definitely.
Fear was looming all over, and I think we just needed to get rid of that, and we didn't know how. But God reminded us through His Word that perfect love drives out fear. And so, as sons and daughters, we are privileged not just to be connected with Him, but also to release, the sound of love, the essence of true love, through our songs, through our words, through our presence. And so we thought, well, why not? And so we started to just sing on the street and just share it through social media, because social media was the only means to connect with people. Nobody would go out. Back.
I think that's beautiful, because I till now vividly remember lockdown, and like how you're saying, the fear was so prevalent, and that fear, negativity, all these, the bad things, everything basically was like taking over our mindset and everyone. So I was not aware about it that time, Love Sound movement, but the fact that you went out and did something like that to combat that, that problem that we had, that was, I think, slowly taking over the minds of everyone. It was like a very bad time. And so that's awesome. Now that like lockdown is not there anymore, obviously, is your main message that still there, that is like to bring that foster some sort of unity, that we're all together? Is that the key message, or now has it like taken a different direction? Because you said like one of the second messages was conquering fear, or maybe
so you would agree with me, during the lockdown it was also a time for new things to birth, I think, for many people.
Definitely.
Time for reset, and so Love Sound movement wasn't just about doing it during the lockdown, but it was the beginning of something new, and which is why it is still continuing today. The message of unity, or for unity, I think it has to go on. And yes, we have heard slogans about unity and peace and things like that, and organizations are trying to unite, especially in the context of Nagaland. Many people are trying, and I sincerely appreciate the efforts. But I think we have to come down to this one thing, which is which I've mentioned earlier also, that we have to realize, if we say we are a Christian state, and if we are truly Christians, then we have to accept this fact that we are already united in Christ. Because the Bible clearly says that, Romans chapter 12, verse 5, it says, we who are many form one body. Okay? And each member belongs to one another. So once you say you are a Christian, you have accepted Christ, that you are born again Christian, then by default, we become one with Christ. Everybody, irrespective of whichever denomination or community you belong to. But we are already one. It's just that the Bible also encourages us to be like-minded, because our minds, our mindset can be so different, even if you are a born-again believer. And so it's a journey. That's why the Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so I think we just have to, I'm also reminded of a verse, I think if I'm not wrong, it's in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 2-3, I think. It says, therefore be completely humble and gentle. And it also says, bear with one another in love, and make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. And so it is not easy, but I think, like I've mentioned, I really appreciate the efforts that are being made by the churches and just organizations. But we also have to know that we are one. We are inseparable. Even if we don't like things about each other, even if we tend to hate each other, we are inseparable. So why can't we just reconcile? accept the fact that we are one family. And so church has a big role to play in really taking this message, far and wide, and just not get tired in spite of how the reality may seem right now, the challenges. But we should not give up on that. That was Jesus's prayer. The longest prayer in the Bible, you will see, John chapter 17, it was on unity. And there's one particular verse where it says, Jesus prays to his Father. He says, Father, protect them by the power of your name, the name you gave me. And so there's one name that holds us together. You may say you're from revival denomination or Baptist or Baptist revival and things like that, charismatic, but we are held by one name. Can we just, come to terms and just accept, we belong to one head. The church, the people of God, they are called the body of Christ, but the head is Jesus. And so we are one under one head.
Right.
So if we can just embrace that message and really learn to walk in the path of humility, and learn true honor. I think we have shown too much of false honor in our society. Many times, for whatever reasons, we in public we are very good at showing honor to people who are, maybe. I mean, we seem to show honor, but in our hearts we are there's so much pride, and we it's so evident, we're very arrogant when
the ego is a big issue
in many ways. So I think it's time, that we also embrace the message of reconciliation. I feel like that, I think the Christians, much more than anything, I think we have to value relationship above everything. That is number one. Because the Bible says it very clearly, in the book of Matthew chapter 5, verse 23. It says, if you're about to offer a gift at the altar, and there you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave the gift in front of the altar. First go to him or her and be reconciled, and then come back and offer your gift. So for God, what we do is not what we give or donations we give, good works we do. That is not the first thing or the most important thing. What is more important is the peace and harmony, the reconciliation that we need to have time and again with one another. I think that is the message that we need to carry as Nagas. Be any issue that we are talking about today, I think if that is taken care.
I mean, I totally agree with you on this. I just want to add one or two things, because yours is obviously from the spiritual angle that we're looking at, like, the unity in one in Christ. But I like along those lines, but just in terms of us as a community, I've mentioned this many times on the podcast also, that for me personally, I think like our division, the lack of unity, and that with tribalism and everything, is the biggest threat to us as a people, as a race, as a community, whatever you call it. This is the biggest thing. So I mean, I really appreciate that message that you're trying to put out, and the parallels that it can be drawn to what I believe in also. And second is also, very interesting that it was birthed from, I mean, like you said, it was not just because of the lockdown and all, but it was birthed out of that. And Shoutout podcast was also,
exactly.
A product of that.
Yeah.
And then hence, like, why we always try and preach positivity. And even though the lockdown is over, there is still an excessive amount of, negativity that is all around us. And so it's always, I mean, you feel like you're fighting in it's an uphill battle, basically, but doing our bit of whatever we can to spread some positivity, I think will do, I think it's a good thing for everyone to just try and be a little more positive in this day and age, especially. I mean, I feel like it's like super crucial.
That's right.
But yeah, I love that those two have something in common. And when you're talking about the church, I want to ask you one thing about this. And like you were saying how the church has a big role to play in all this and all, which is obvious. One thing I want to ask you, because you are like, you know, specifically in that space where you're it's worship music, and you're using music as a tool to, you know, spread the word and spread the message. How much importance, or maybe lack of importance, do you feel like, you know, the church gives to this aspect of you know, like doing God's work basically? Do you feel like it's undervalued, or like how do you look at it, like, and basically worship music, or you know?
I think you're talking about worship music, right?
Yeah, worship music. Yeah.
Things have changed drastically actually over the recent like few years.
Okay.
I think I can see that most of the churches are embracing this, not just as a method to be adopted, or you know, a new thing, you know, to be adopted, but then this is definitely one of the best ways to connect with God. You know, worship. And we are sons and daughters, first of all, of God. But at the same time, if we have to live out as true sons and daughters, it takes a life of worship. And so music, you know, we call it praise and worship ministry. Just like how there's pastoral ministry,
right,
or you know, somebody is called to be a Bible teacher and also a preacher, things like that. Praise and worship ministry is also one of such. And we see that it's very common in churches today. So what this aspect of ministry does is the first role, their job is to minister or to serve God through their singing. We basically worship,
right,
you know, worshiping through songs. And as they do that, what happens is that we position ourselves along with the congregation and the team. You know, we position ourselves to usher in God's presence, and things happen. You know, miracles can happen. People experience healing, and they experience joy. God speaks to them, and things like that. So it is very much necessary. It's not man-made, actually. Worship is God's idea. And so basically, you know, I think worship is what allows you to, life of worship is what allows you or enables you to live or walk like a true son and daughter of God, as believers, you know, as Christians. And today, sadly, many would bow to the things of the world and not bow before God. That is a sad reality, even in Nagaland. You either serve God or money. You cannot serve both. The Bible clearly says about that. And so worshiping is not just singing and praising God in the church, within the church four walls of the church, but worship ultimately is like offering
the way
your
of
life,
right? Yeah.
Constantly, you know, in the fear of the Lord, just offering yourself again and again. So I think that is where we are failing, even as people of God. Okay. And so I think we need to really, instead of trying to, you know, point fingers at each other, I think we have to really see where we stand before God, you know. Yeah. And
I wanna ask you in something, it's not something very specific, but my personal opinion is that, I've mentioned this before also, but like don't want to get into any trouble or anything, but like, you know, my personal opinion is that there's this disconnect between, I'm talking about us in Nagaland, between the church and the people, the public. There seems to be some sort of disconnect, whether it's like deficit of trust, or not happy with how they operate, or whatever reason it may be, but there seems to be a disconnect. Do you feel like there's something like that? Or, and if so, also what are some of the factors that you feel like, you know, um, the situation in Nagaland, when I'm specifically talking about the church,
Yeah.
like I'll just put it out there that like guests on previous episode have also said it themselves, and I've heard this, so I'm just speaking this as like from observational point of view, and that some of the reasons is that maybe the priorities maybe about like materialism maybe is one that gets brought up often, or maybe the way they sort of operate, maybe it's, I don't know what you call it, too old school or whatever, but these are some of the things I hear. But I do, besides not being specifically like saying this is the reason or that is the reason, I feel there is like a genuine disconnect between the church and the people. Although every Sunday everyone goes to church and like attend service, comes back, but there's some sort of disconnect. Do you feel there's anything like that, or like what's your take on this?
Well, I think we have heard a lot about how churches have also become irrelevant. I've only one reason, if it is so, and if it is still prevailing, it is because we have not allowed the Spirit of God to lead the church. Men or people are never supposed to lead the church. Christ himself said, I will build my church. And so it is God who has the blueprint and also who has the power and all the wisdom to lead the church. And so somewhere the disconnect between the church and the people is also because there's a disconnect between the church and God. Somewhere, we have failed when it comes to our relationship with God. We have not allowed ourselves to be led by the Spirit of God. It is as simple as that. And I think it is high time, I think during the lockdown, one of the things God spoke to me very clearly, not in an audible voice, but then, I felt convicted in my heart, is that we are focusing so much horizontally on each other. And the church, if not careful, and sadly we have seen also, it's looking more like the world. They're trying to deal with issues with the methods and strategies of the world. So I felt lockdown also happened to be an opportunity. It came also as an opportunity for us to once again, gaze or to pay attention to God. Because we've been paying too much attention to the world and looking at each other so much that we could do nothing more than just pointing fingers at each other and criticizing and things like that. Yeah. So I think the church needs to look up. I think that is the best place to begin if we want to really see something new begin. And I've no doubt, by that I'm not saying God is not doing, he's not moving. There's a fresh beginning, there's a fresh move of God already happening. Because God himself said, I will build my church. And so in spite of our inconsistencies or even compromises in the past, he is committed to build his people and to bless the world. And so I'm very hopeful and I'm very excited about the new move of God that is happening. Yeah.
I mean, we can go a little deeper, but I want to touch on music a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously, you being an artist for the past decade, 16 years, right?
Yeah, it's a little more than 16 years.
Yeah. So that's a long time. And me being someone who's also involved in the music industry.
Yeah.
And although I had a very short-lived career back in the early 2000s.
But I would hear about you.
We'll keep that aside. Then there was a long break, and then I got back into music, albeit a different angle, which was like in the form of Infinity and all that. But I wanted to just ask you a few things, speaking from a very general standpoint, like Uh, one thing is, what's your take on this? Like, when you talk about like globally, and
Yeah.
especially like the Western world and all that, and the sort of excessive uh, symbolism, and the whole satanistic kind of like influence or whatever in the music that we're seeing in like proper mainstream media. It doesn't even seem to be very subtle anymore. It's like in your face kind of thing.
Mhm.
I've seen it at the biggest shows like the Grammys,
Mhm.
NFL halftime shows, and everything, all these things.
Yeah.
What's like, like, how do you feel when you see all this, and like knowing that, like, like these are the artists that have like the millions of followers, and like people who are fans of them and all, like,
Mhm.
what is what is your take on all this, like?
I'll just try to connect with Prism.
Okay.
Why we do Prism,
Right.
and also coming to your question.
Okay.
For a long time, and I'm against it,
Mm.
and that is, I've seen, and it's so obvious, like you say, uh, you don't have to really think too much to really identify
Yeah,
that
yeah.
things are so ugly.
Mm.
I've seen enough of how talk about music industry or even movie industry.
Mm.
You are valuing uh, the talent or the work of a person more than the person himself or herself.
Mm.
In other words, that individual has become more like a commodity.
Mm.
That is a sad reality, and I'm totally against that.
Mm.
We are willing to just stoop so low that
Yeah.
basically you are just
A product only, no?
a product only.
Mm.
And where does it stem from? It stems from this need to be accepted, to be approved.
Mm.
Everybody wants to be recognized and approved. Everybody wants to be loved.
Mm.
And sadly, in music and movie industry, when people step in, there's a system where it is already set. You just have to come in, and then if you are highly talented, you're a hardworking person, if you're smart, you'll be celebrated, obviously. And that is where idolizing begins. More like an idol worship. And obviously, God is against that. Wherever you see idol worship in any form, I don't think you can expect any good coming out of it. And for me, I'm also speaking from a believer's Christian point of view. The Bible is very clear. Every time the Israelites worship an idol, they experience destruction. But every time they return to God and worship the true living God, they experience blessing. And so for me, it's about it's about the identity issue. Yeah, everybody is wanting to be recognized, seen, but I think we are all looking trying to find in all the wrong places. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think it's just like it's kind of like we in the sense, when you're talking about the Western world, especially, they're just losing the plot. I mean, like, it's very disturbing to see that, like, that these are the biggest artists in the world doing certain things on the biggest stages of them all, and the whole world is watching.
Yeah.
And so you obviously know very well the power that artists have over people who follow them, whether they're fans or followers, whatever you call them.
Yeah.
And how they can influence people to think in a way, or subconsciously also it might happen, or directly also. But that's very disappointing. I mean, like, it's quite scary also if you look at how blatant it's become nowadays, right?
That's right.
What about moving closer home? the music industry, or what little of a music industry we have in Nagaland. You being in it for a very long time, when someone asks you this question, what do you think of the Nagaland music industry? What are some of the first things that come to your mind? Like whether it's positive, negative, it's fine. Like, you know, what are some of the first things that pop to your head when someone says, "What do you think of the Nagaland music industry?"
Tough ma.
Well, I mean, like, let me put it like this. Why do you think our musicians, if at all you feel that there are musicians who deserve to be much bigger than where they are right now, why do you think we're not getting there? What is the biggest drawback for Naga artists?
I think as much as we want to complain about weak music industry that we have, it is not really about that also. We just have to accept the fact that we are just growing, and it'll take time. But for individuals who are talented,
Right.
who are committed, who are hardworking, who has a clear vision, I think nothing can stop them. And we have seen some of them, you know, really flourishing, doing well. And so I think I've mentioned earlier also, even for me as an artist, you know, I'm not after opportunities. I don't get frustrated when I don't have opportunities or when I'm not invited. But what I make sure is I continue to work on my craft, and also stay connected with the audience, for two reasons. One is you are never called to be alone. I think this seclusion and just, you know, wanting to be alone is not healthy. You know, there are some very highly talented people, but who don't want to open up.
Right.
You know, but I would encourage them to just make some efforts, take small steps. You know, interact with people, talk to people, and if you have some great stuff to share, you know, go ahead and just make use of the platforms that are available. You know, there are agencies and, you know, people to just help you, promote you.
Right.
I would encourage them to do that. But like I've said, you know, people who are really committed, consistent, focused, and not this, even though, you know, you may have failed or you've been discouraged in some seasons, still, you know, pursuing. I think those people have made it. Yeah, and even if I don't name them.
We don't have to name names.
Yeah,
But
so I think for me, I don't know, to create a strong niche for our artists, it'll take some time. Tafmai is trying his best, and Tafmai is not the only hope.
It shouldn't be.
And it should never be.
Yeah.
It should never be. And at least we're happy to see, you know, independent artists really, you know, working hard and bringing out their unique flavor in terms of their art, and just doing whatever an artist is required to do in terms of marketing and things like that. I can see a few of them doing very well.
Very well, yeah.
Yeah. And I think those are going to be like the building blocks, even for the younger ones, or at least the current generation that is trying to find a niche for their sustenance, or even, you know, to be heard as artists. Yeah, I think.
With our Naga artists, on the other hand, like, what are the positives that you see? Like, you know, what are some of the good things about Naga artists that could potentially take us to the next level and the next level and to the highest levels?
I'm a little hesitant to say this.
Okay.
But I think it's also because I'm from here in Nagaland. I'm a Naga, and I've seen so many great talents, you know. What I see is there are so many, like, genuinely talented artists, like naturally gifted, basically.
Right.
Yeah, naturally blessed. I think that is going to be one advantage. If the rest is just hard work and just, you know, getting the right training and things like that. But this is something I notice. The reason why I say this is also because I don't know. Maybe they have a good reason why they say that. But whenever I travel out of Nagaland, whenever I'm in different cities interacting with friends and artists, they would talk highly about the Naga musicians and singers, and something that just draws them towards us when it comes to singing, especially singing, singers. And so although I can't fully comprehend what is that, that they really see and what are they really talking about, but I think whenever they say, I can sense that it's genuine, and so I think that's more to do with naturally gifted,
being naturally gifted, right?
Yeah.
I 100% believe in this also, that we as Nagas are musically gifted, and that we have like this immense talent pool. Just the challenge being, although we are gifted, it doesn't equate to success, or
True.
There are so many factors that come in. Like you said, one of the most important ones is hard work.
Yeah.
But besides that, there are plenty others, like being original, so many things. But I do 100% believe in that we Nagas have been blessed, very lucky to be blessed with this natural sense and touch of music, like that we have. So being someone in the industry, I'm always hoping for positive changes. I mean, like, our music industry, I think, is like, it's barely existent, but let's just call it a music industry for the sake of calling it one. But it's positively, it's taking steps. I mean, like, there are artists that are leading the way, and then opening doors for other artists, and the community as a whole, and it's looking good, although there's so many challenges, and it can be frustrating, but I think that's just my take on that. When I was talking to you the other day, we were just going over some topics that we could potentially talk about. One thing that I suggested, since you're hesitant in giving topics, but one thing I suggested, which I think I would enjoy to talk about, would be family and parenthood. Being young parents, you 2 children, right? So likewise, mine are a little younger than yours, but just wanted to have this sort of like a general discussion on just family and parenthood, values, challenges of raising. So many things to talk about, but I thought it'd be interesting. So why don't you start by just first of all giving like a little introduction of your family to the audience also, and then like how the family dynamics is at your home. If you can share some of
So I'm married to Jungtina Jamir, and I have a son, a 9-year-old son, and 10-year-old son, and 6-year-old daughter, Niall and Lenny. So I think we have discussed this off camera also, a while ago. Each family has its own dynamics, methods, and so for us, we don't have a strict routine. There are basic things which we don't compromise, like few things we don't compromise, but I don't know, we just happen to flow better if there are lesser rules. So
it's very, very interesting that you mentioned that, because I was like listening to this podcast the other day, and Jordan Peterson, and he was like something about rules, like it is obviously necessary to have rules, but the need, I mean, like when you have excessive rules, it can be like the reverse thing, the result. Instead of like disciplining them or like teaching them, it could go for a U-turn. But anyway, carry on.
So what do I say? There are lots. Where do I start?
Let's start with like, look, like how I told you. It's, I mean, I don't like always comparing it to the West, but the fact that we are now a global village, and it's just a stone throws away, like figuratively. When you look at the West and how something's so traditional and foundational for me, like family, something like a family is being attacked, and it can be worrisome, you know, like me as like, you know, a young father, like, you know, I look at what's happening in the West and think like, oh my goodness, like if that kind of situation is happening here at home, how are we tackling it? And then so yeah, like in that sense, you know, like when you look at what's happening outside, okay, why don't we just start with that? Like, what is your take on this when you look at like family values and maybe like how it's getting wrecked in the West, and especially in the US, and what's your take on this?
I mean, for me, the only hope for my marriage is, and my family is God. Apart from that, I mean, what can I say? You know? So based on that, I would say my personal devotion towards God becomes very crucial. Be it the health of my marriage and also family. And so my commitment towards God, my devotion to Him is very crucial. It begins from there. And also, I think you would agree with me also. There's nothing wrong with it, but I think we tend to forget, we tend to overlook, and that is, yes, children are important, but if we focus too much on the well-being of the children and just invest everything, just revolve our lives, you know, revolving around them, and not focusing on marriage, I'm talking about spouses.
Right.
I think that is not going to help.
Definitely.
Because it's the healthy marriage that's going to be a powerful force to build the ideal family that we're talking about. And so at least I'm married for 13 years.
Okay.
And so at least this is something I'm realizing again and again. That yes, I love my children. Apart from, I love my children. I want to just give them the best. I want to be there for them. No doubt about it. But I've also realized that unknowingly, you know, I've neglected my time with my wife. There have been times when I had to make intentional effort, like I had to really remind myself, you know, and lock my eyes, you know,
I can really
with her eyes, and then, you know, try to understand even her emotional health, her mental health, you know, because in the name of building a career or earning and being there for our children, I think many marriages suffer. And for me, number one thing for a healthy family is a healthy marriage. So this is something I'm reminded again and again.
I totally agree with this. I mean, like you said, it's sometimes that you have to force yourself to also remind yourself, you know, that there are other people in this world besides your children, and and that you must give time. And when you look at support systems and the importance of them in your life, whether it's your spouse, your siblings, your parents, friends, like you mentioned about like how you had a very good support structure of friends when you were in Bangalore,
That's
who,
right.
you know, like guided you or made sure that you were walking the path that you needed to walk and stuff like that. So the importance of children is 100%. I think like any parent would give anything for their kids and all that, but the importance to realize that other the pieces of all the support system need to be also like, you know, all well taken care of, and otherwise it's not going to work, right?
That's right.
What do you think about parenthood? Because like my kids are a little younger than yours, so they're just like getting into school and stuff like that. But like obviously with each generation that passes, methodology changes of how you parent your kids, and 100% different from like when it was with our parents and obviously their parents and such. What's when you not to generalize so much, but like when you look at like parenthood specifically in like in Nagaland, what's your views on like how you know, what are some of the things that you appreciate about like how Nagas or friends and families that you personally know are raising the kids, and what are some of maybe like the worrying signs of like how they're doing. Although it's not for us to judge, but just like for discussion's sake.
Yeah. I mean, some of the good things, something that we also try to cultivate, as a family, is basically, no matter how young they are, but certain things, at least, maybe not everything, but whatever wife and I are facing in terms of challenges or things that we want to do or we are doing as husband and wife, as a family, we make sure that we also share those things with our children. I think that is very important.
Communication.
Yeah, communication is very important. And coming to one-on-one, just the aspect where you have to be able to journey with your children's emotional journey, basically, their mental health and all that. So for that, you cannot do that in the passing, just casual approach and just, but you have to be intentional about giving time, which I see in some families also, my friends, who are doing it well. And one of the ways to do that is not just telling them good stuffs in general, but being intentional about having prayer time, which I think many Naga families have done it for years. But I think methods have to change. We have to change our approach. Not making it, I think we
like
have
a
made
routine.
we have made it more like a routine. So there are many ways you can get creative. Yeah. So we do it more like a reading time, not necessarily in-depth Bible study time,
Right.
and enjoy each other's reading. That's one of the things we do. We also just sing, just random worship songs, just enjoy each other. Sometimes it doesn't have to end like a typical, prayer meeting where everybody is just little, quiet
and not like exactly that relaxed atmosphere, and that when you're sort of like in enjoyable mood is like
exactly.
it's always better.
So these some of the things that we are trying to at least how do I say impart in our children, obviously just helping them to love the word of God, and just pray. Those are the foundational values that we really want them to
definitely
grow.
When you mentioned that earlier, I was thinking that is spot on for me, at least. I think communication with your children, and like I mentioned, past generations, I mean, like it is different, right? The times were different. Everything was different, so like you can't blame them or such. But I think during that, like the past generation, that communication thing was not so strong.
That's right.
Like the children and parenting, and till this day, I think I would just like to encourage, like family and friends, those who have children, young, old, whatever. I think it's super important to have this like open line of communication with your children, and like there's so many things that I'm going a little off track here, but like one thing I want to ask you is like how do you balance this, like career, family, like I ask this to others also, because even I'm trying to figure out, like the perfect sort of thing, but which I guess you'll have to figure out for your own. How do you sort of balance something so precious, which is time also, and between family, career, work, and stuff like that?
I think it's a matter of your heart at the end of the day. I am purely speaking from my like personal experience. So lately I've been traveling a lot, past few months, and something that I had to remind myself was don't get too comfortable being away from home. I think you get me right when I'm saying this, where suddenly you are okay even without being with your family, spouse and your children. I think those are like the warning signs and you need to quickly deal with it, you know. And so I think you just know it. You cannot be very strict about, yes, certain things don't compromise as much as possible, like being there for your children's birthday and anniversary and things like that. Sometimes we have, I was away from, I couldn't be there also. But apart from that, I think you just know it. You just need to be faithful and true to that leading. You know, you just know it. So I think one of the things that I would like to encourage, you know, people who are trying to balance between work and family is don't get too comfortable with your work to a point where, you know, you don't feel anything and you're comfortable even without your family being with you. You know, not spending enough time with your family. Okay, I'm okay with it. You know, it's normal, and that's very dangerous. I think obviously having children should make you like joyful and excited, but if you happen to lose that also, that's very dangerous actually.
Definitely.
And even same goes with your spouse. If you feel like that, you know, I think you're not in a good place.
Yeah, when you're talking about like the balance between family and work, or career and family, it's very challenging. I mean, for me, I'm just like this is my thing, that I find it very challenging because you're at this point as a young parent, you're at a point where you're sort of like in your prime when you're supposed to be working the most and stuff like that. In order to set up a good life for, you know, everyone and have quality time when you retire. I mean, that's like the sort of the basic system, right? So because you're putting in extra time to do work and all, then you lose out time with your family. And then if you spend too much time with your family, your work gets neglected, and you know, so it's like that's why I just wanted to ask you as a, from your personal point of view, you know, how much time do you really give? Because just recently I thought about this, like how when people tell you, like, you know, like spend time with your kids, because like when they grow up you'll regret those days, and you know, like that. So and you only realize this, you know, it only dawns on you when you actually go through that. So sort of went through it with my eldest son, who's now 6. And now I've sort of realized, you know, like it kind of holds true. So that's one of my biggest worries. That's something just sharing with you, that what are some of the things that you like to do with your family that you feel make you closer as a family?
Personally, what I do, and also what wife and I will do with our children is, yes, my wife is more creative when it comes to engaging children and having fun stuffs, and I just cooperate. I try my best to just get along and enjoy with the rest. But what I enjoy the most doing with my basically when it comes to spending time with my children is just being with them, and just maybe just carry them, or just take a walk with them, or just have like very silly kind of a moment, you know, like you're not maybe you're just talking nonsense basically, you know, like not heavy stuffs or some
right
things that, you know, a grown-up adult would talk about, but you know, just trying to speak in their language and just play with them. These are some of the things I enjoy. And then
I think your kids will enjoy that part as well, because it's like how the dad is always the one that is supposed to be the one that they like playing with more than you know, the mom. But anyway,
I'm also learning. I'm learning. Still struggle in some area, but then one thing at home is we've been experiencing is there's hardly any tension. The atmosphere of our home is very important, and so we keep it chill. But whenever there's a need for us to really correct them or rebuke them, we do it. But apart from that, we want to make sure that, you know, they really experience this free environment. Not always thinking about, okay, what will my parents say, or okay, when is the next scolding or shouting, you know, coming. We don't. We try to try not to create that kind of environment at home. Yeah, and let them be just kids.
Let kids be kids.
Yeah,
Yes.
and enjoy. Yeah.
And when it comes to your involvement in, I mean, your kids are also still relatively young. So when it comes to like, the fine line between being over involved in their decision making, especially when it comes to career paths and stuff, we always have know or see some over, I mean, and it comes from a good place, I know, but like, some over enthusiastic parents who push their kids to it's like dreams that you couldn't achieve, you try and achieve it through your children, that kind of sort of thing. So like, what's your take on this, and like, how do you approach like decision making or like guiding them when it comes to important decisions in their life?
So when it comes to their natural talent, there are a few things I'm beginning to identify. And so I'm pushing them in that direction, not necessarily to become one in terms of profession or career, but then at least I encourage them to develop. So for instance, my son is a good drummer, so I send him for drum class, and I think musically also he'll do great. Whether he will end up to be a full-time musician, that's another thing. But so I'm planning to just enroll him for piano class and also more, basically, and guitar also. And my daughter, I'm just this. She loves to sing, but very recently I realized she's a very good dancer. So I'm also just considering, letting her maybe go for dance class, explore. And also, I'm definitely gonna enroll her for piano class also. Very soon. So just very, very chill for me. I don't know. I'm not even thinking too much about what they're gonna become or.
I mean, I think I'm personal point of view, but I think that's the right approach. Also, is like it's as parents to provide them with as much opportunities as we can, and then because I think that's about all we should like and can be doing. Also, is like to provide them with opportunities and access, access to all these experiences and skill learning or whatever you want to call it. And then eventually let them decide for themselves, right? Like guiding them that's fine, but being sort of like over enthusiastic, which sometimes I find catching myself. I mean, I catch myself being in that mode. We wrap this up. I think we had a good conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to touch on when we talk about like family?
I think yes, there's this side. There's a need for, as parents, even as fathers, there's a need for us to earn, work hard and earn. But if only you are sure about your family, as one that is relationally healthy, I think much of the work is done, personally for me. And that will happen when you give time. And even if it means compromising on your work and earning extra penny, it's not really going to affect your family. That I know for sure. So I just want to encourage our young families or young couples. Marriage is number one, and then your children. Make sure that together, not just one of the spouses or just father or mother, but together, if you can be unanimous in the decision making, and also in terms of involvement. A mother shouldn't be enjoying. Only the mother shouldn't be enjoying with the children, but the father should also learn, to just get along and just enjoy the journey together. Because many times I think mothers tend to spend more time.
Mm.
That's what I am also noticing,
Mm.
which is not healthy.
Mm.
So fathers should also just,
Yeah.
and I think when you are at home and when you know that you are not supposed, it's okay not to work for you, then I think it's better not to engage yourself. Just forcing yourself to engage in work is not good. I think that time can be really invested on your children. Yeah.
And
sometimes-
and when you mentioned that about fathers being involved, like I heard about
we are
this
very
recently.
passive. We are very
Yeah.
laid back. Many.
But it's
most
like
of the
scientifically
fathers.
proven that, like,
Yeah.
there's a certain it's scientifically proven that, like, children are more happier and certain it's like the dopamine or whatever is released extra when it's like when you're playtime with that is releases that, and obviously the mother's role is again different, and it's but like you mentioned, the most important thing is time. I think time is something that's so crucial and hence so precious that how we allocate time to family, work, and everything is we need to figure that out, and that balance should be there.
Yeah.
I feel like it's just another personal observation, but like I feel it's like sort of it's become sort of like taboo to like talk about money or like I don't know how I'm finding it hard to put this into like a question format, but basically the importance of money. Now we all know, like, money is not the end all be all, but it is important because of certain things it provides, and for the needs. So how would you I'm finding it hard to frame this question, but what is the importance of money? And okay, let's start with that. Like, what is the importance of money, and how should you prioritize it?
I think most of us relate blessing with money, although it involves, blessing involves health and being joyful and having peace and things like that, healthy relationship. But just for the sake of understanding blessing in terms of money, many people today, what I see is they work for money and they live for money. It's something I think more than ever. I'm even among the younger generation.
Right.
It's so evident. I can see that, and it's very alarming also. And so and that if you are headed in that direction, you won't hesitate to compromise, or in other words, principles. Yeah. So and in other words, you are standing on a shaky ground. You'll fall anytime, basically, and I don't have to explain, because what you are doing is you're allowing the money to dictate your life, whereas you are supposed to be the master over the money. And so one of the ways to just check that is when you are earning, are you filled more with sorrow or insecurity, or you're actually enjoying the blessing of money? Because the Bible clearly says in Proverbs chapter 10:22, it says the blessing of the Lord makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. So that'll be basically one of the ways to check whether it's the money that is controlling you or you are the one who is actually controlling the money. I think that will be a good parameter to check if you are in the right place.
Yeah. I think that makes for a fair point. Yeah. So, like, money is important. Obviously, we need it, to survive in this world and all. But at what cost, and at what limits? That is the thing that we need to keep in check. Okay, I think we've come to an end of a very nice conversation. I've totally enjoyed this. Before we wrap this up, quickly, what does the future lie? What does the future hold for you personally, whether it's with family or and stuff, and then also with your career and what you're doing with your work.
Mm.
Do you have any like? Let me put it this way. Do
Yeah,
you have
yeah.
any like long-term plans, goals in mind? If you can disclose them, or short-term ones also, or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Well, right now I'm committed to just loving my family and just grow together, and also just committed to few things that the Lord has entrusted to me, like Prism, Love, Life, Liberty, and Love Song Movement,
Right.
and just a church community. I'm part of a church called the Lighthouse Church. I'm also one of the elders, and I'm blessed to be part of that community also. And so I think, yeah, I'm just excited for many more surprises that are ahead of me. It's exciting, it's an adventure, journeying with God. Yeah, whether it's Prism, it's Love Song Movement, Love, Liberty, Family. All these things are from God, and for me, I want to serve the purpose of God in this generation. That is more important than me trying to build my life and build things for myself. So that itself will lead me to many more adventures and great stuffs that are waiting for me.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Okay, we wrap up this conversation with the last segment, which is the message. I've told you about this. So, like, basically two messages. The first message is to friends and family. You can be specific, name names, or just in general. And the second is to a message for the Nagas. If like I said, if every Naga was tuned in, listening to you right now, what would your message be?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would, from the bottom of my heart, I would like to say thank you so much, to my wife, to my children, to my friends who have journeyed with me all these years. Of course, my parents, my siblings. I think it's a great opportunity to be saying this in public, a way of honoring them, So thank you very much to all of you. And I think again, the same message goes out for my family and friends, and also the Nagas in general, is that just embrace the spirit of reconciliation. I think we have to place relationship above everything else. If you can take care of that, I would say much of the things are taken care. We will suddenly feel that like we are together in this journey, and there's so much of encouragement, energy, and hope that we can draw from each other if only we learn to walk in the true spirit of reconciliation. Basically, just learning to live as brothers and sisters. And so, yeah, lots to talk about in terms of issues, but let's not focus so much on that. Let's focus on building relationships genuinely. Okay, the Word of God says, above everything, pursue love, which binds us all together in perfect harmony. And so, let's go. Yeah.
okay, lovely message. I mean, Tali, thank you so much for taking the time out to come on the podcast and do this. I really appreciate what you do and the impact that you have in our community with our youth, and I love the message that you spread, especially that of unity and reconciliation, and I hope that your community and your kind grows bigger, and the impact continues to grow, and all the best with what you're doing. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much for having me. Thoroughly enjoyed.